My dad is a very sensitive subject.
What is up, members of D12? Back at it again. Back to back. Back at it again. I just got done recording number 9, DDP. And let's just get another one out of the way. We're up to number 8. And this is the first real threat for a wildcard slot. So if we want to ignore the dumpster fire that is the North Division, I'm going to continue to crap on you guys because you guys are all terrible. 2 of you 3 are better than me, but it's a terrible division. This is the first team that I think that has a legitimate chance of getting one of the 2 wild card slots, which at the beginning of last year, you would have all thought I was crazy. Then he reeled off a 9-4 record on his way to a bye week, if I remember right. I'm pretty sure that he had a bye week last year. So anyway, it's NorthMan. He's not going to see this. He's not going to do Facebook now that the contracts are just always available via the Google Doc. Not that he ever did anything. Anyway, but the theme song that I chose for NorthMan is Will Smith's Just the Two of Us. Why would I choose Just the Two of Us? Well, the reason why I chose Just the Two of Us is because he has 2 studs, and then there's a huge drop-off after that. So if he's going to make any noise, it's going to be on the backs of just 2 of his players. We'll get into who those are once we get there. Let's start with his quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford, subpar year last year. That's when he had Calvin Johnson. No longer has Megatron. It was a bad year last year. I think he takes another step back. I think Stafford is borderline droppable, especially with that contract that he's paying. But it's not like that he needs the cap room because Ivan did leave the auction on Sunday with $149 in cap room. I know that a couple people have gotten after Gitch for not spending his cap. Gitch at least hit the maximum number of players. Not only did Ivan leave with $149 in cap room, but he left with 4 roster spots open as well. Poor managing on his part, if you ask me, because there were other guys that he could have picked up that could have helped him. But he won my division last year. He got a bye week. I can't really talk. So behind Matthew Stafford, he has Jared Goff, who's not playing this year, and he has Brock Osweiler, who has never really been in charge of a whole lot. He did fill in for Peyton last year. On the plus side, I guess, Houston's offense, he does get to throw to DeAndre Hopkins. They got 3 other young wide receivers in Jalen Strong, Braxton Miller, and tiny-handed Will Fuller. So maybe towards the end of the year he's able to play Osweiler confidently, but I don't like any of his 3 quarterbacks at all. Moving on to wide receiver, we see one of the 2 studs on his team, and that's Allen Robinson. Even if Jacksonville does regress this year, I still see a fantastic year for Allen Robinson. I'm not just saying that because I have Allen Robinson on basically every other fantasy team that I have, but Robinson is a top 5 dynasty player, in my opinion, and he's an absolute stud for Ivan. Before I paid all those money for Chris's and Borg's draft picks for next year, I offered Ivan $200 for Allen Robinson, and he declined. And I can't really blame him because he is that good. Marvin Jones tied to Matthew Stafford. Every time Jones scores, Stafford will score, so that's a plus, I guess. Maybe Jones does get a portion of Calvin Johnson's targets. Jones has never had to be relied upon as a top 2 wide receiver in a system. Maybe he was in Cincinnati. Was it him and Ocho Cinco? Not a huge Marvin fan. Really not a big Mohamed Sanu fan. He does get to play across from Julio. I don't like Atlanta. I don't like their passing game. I mentioned that when I talked about Matt Ryan. Down in one of his flexes, I have penciled in Tajay Sharp, not Sterling Sharp. or Shannon Sharp. Sterling Sharp, that would be fantastic if you could throw him in there. But this guy has really come on in the past few weeks in the preseason. Looks like he's going to be Tennessee's number 2 wide receiver, and could be in the line for a lot of work. Tennessee shipped off DGB. Sharp has moved ahead of Kendall Wright. Andre Johnson is a non-factor there. And when I traded for the 12 pick, this is who I had in mind. I then traded away the 12 pick to Durs. Durs really wanted him here, and I'm super glad that he didn't fall to 12 because I like my trade a lot better because of that. A little bit further on down the line, there's not a whole lot behind these guys. He does have Dorial Green-Beckham on this team as well. New scenery in Philadelphia, maybe that helps him. He had a touchdown in the preseason game. And then Terrence Williams. It's pretty shallow. He only has 6 wide receivers on his team. That's where all of his roster spots are used up. So Allen Robinson, stud. The rest of them, meh. I mean, some decent plays there, but nothing too terribly exciting. Over at running back, this is stud number 2. Devontae Freeman destroyed every other running back in fantasy points last year. He's obviously going to take a huge step back. I don't think that he's the best running back in the league, but last year he was. One of only 2 running backs to receive 500 rushing yards and rush for 500 rushing yards. Only he rushed for well over that. I think he had 70 catches last year. Again, that number's probably likely to come down, but Freeman is in line for another huge season as far as I'm concerned. Maybe some of you are like, well, Latavius Murray, he should be included with Robinson and Freeman. I see a pretty big gap between Freeman and Latavius. I think DeAndre Washington is really going to push Latavius this year. I don't think that Oakland really likes Latavius all that well. He will get the first shot at it, but I don't see him being the starter all year. I see a big drop for Latavius this year. He's got Langford in as his flex. Again, Chicago I don't think is in love with Langford. They might run him into the ground this year. I see Chicago going after a running back in the draft next year. I'm not too terribly concerned about Kadeem Carey or Jordan Howard there. So Langford should get the work for this year. And then he does actually have really good running back depth because, Justin Forsett not as much, but Amir Abdullah, Matt Jones once he comes back, all 3 of those guys probably start on most teams that are not in the South Division. So if he wants to make a trade, I know that he is the only owner that has not made a trade yet this year after I popped Doug's cherry on Sunday. He could move one of those running backs for some wide receiver depth. He should. I've tried trading with him in the past along those same lines because I needed running backs, and he's just not interested in trading, hardly at all. So we can move on to tight ends. Luckily for him, because he had Ladarius Green, who is now injured, he's on the PUP list, not the IR, but the PUP list. He did also pick up Jesse James. Now that my man Heath Miller's gone, Pittsburgh, high-powered offense, it would be good to have the starting tight end there. So either way, he will have that. Charles Clay is currently penciled in as the starter. Meh. Not terribly excited about him there. Jason Morrow, meh. Not even meh. Jason Morrow doesn't deserve a meh. Jason Morrow deserves to be on the unemployment line. And then Austin Hooper. Actually took Austin Hooper in the draft when Hunter Henry was still on the board. Personal preference, I guess, there. I don't think he's going to be a huge factor this year, but maybe down the line. But again, he's tied to Matt Ryan, and I don't like that. He's got a lot of Falcons on his team, I'm just noticing, between Sanu, Freeman, and Austin Hooper. I mentioned that this is the first guy that I think has a legitimate chance of getting a wild card. You can see the pretty large difference between him making the playoffs and him winning the division. He is in my division, so he gets to beat me twice this year. He's also in Doug's division, which is, spoiler alert, going to be a top 5 team for sure this year, at least as far as my power rankings are concerned. So I don't see him winning the division. It would be pretty unlikely that he won back-to-back titles. It's more likely at this point this year than it was last year, and he proved me wrong last year. But could challenge with the South Division and with one other team for one of the wild card spots. Yeah, not a whole lot else to say about this team. Again, 2 studs, and then a bunch of meh guys as far as I'm concerned. So I think that's going to do it for today. We got 2 more in today. I will probably be getting in 2 more again tomorrow. So I will see you guys tomorrow.